All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of You Left Shit Out. I'm your host, Compton J. I'm joined by a very special guest today for this episode 3, Mr. Hector Oseguera. Sorry,
Close. Oseguera.
Oseguera. He
Thank you.
even spelled it phonetically for me, and I still messed that up. My apologies, sir. How are you doing, Hector?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation. And I'm very excited to touch on this topic. Very controversial topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into, so what I'm going to do is play the video that kind of spurred this conversation, this topic, and then we'll get right into the topic. But before I do that, just want to make sure I say like this video, subscribe, just so that it helps us out, because YouTube is not helping us with the algorithm. So please, what am I looking for? Oh, right here. So please like and or subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you think you're subscribed, double check. Some people are saying that YouTube has unsubscribed them, so please do that. And finally, if you are able to donate and want to donate to the channel, you can donate to us on Patreon. And then below, if you want to donate to my mutual aid, it is on the scrolling bar right below at the screen. And there we go. So that's the where's it at? So that's all the logistics out of the way. So let's jump right into the topic, and we're going to start with the video that started this whole conversation. Oh, oops, that's the wrong one. I'm going to share it with you in just a second, as soon as I get the right video up here. I thought I sent it to you yesterday. Oh, here it goes. Okay, so and maybe later I'll play even the full video, because there's actually a longer version of this, Hector. This is just a snippet of a longer version. So here is the video. We'll play it and then begin our conversation on the other side. So here is
progressives and leftists. That is how I essentially.
Let me give the proper introduction. So here's the video that spurred the whole entire conversation today.
Fighting at every corner, begging for crumbs in a party that you're a member of is not my idea of a winning strategy for progressives and leftists. That is how I essentially look at the inside-outside game that some progressives, some leftists have moving forward. So the inside game that some leftists want to implore within the Democratic Party is a strategy essentially of begging the Democratic Party for crumbs, begging for committee assignments like AOC, begging for an assignment and then it going to somebody else who was willing to withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, begging for floor votes, like begging for the floor vote on Medicare for all. Why would we want to do that? We're in a party where we're supposed to be part of the team, but yet we are constantly begging for things, especially begging for a vote on Medicare for all. There's also begging is in strongly worded letters, right? So these letters that are strongly worded to leadership to say, I mean business, that's begging. So begging in those letters also, begging the Democratic Party to put Medicare for all on the convention floor or in the convention plan. So famously, the Democratic convention voted down Medicare for all as part of their platform. Okay, so and who cares about a Democratic Party platform? So you're telling me the Democratic Party can't even put an idea of having Medicare for all on their platform, but leftists were begging for that. And lastly, begging the Democratic Party to fight for minimum wage or fight for a $15 minimum wage. As we can see recently, the Democratic Party, when they say support $15 minimum wage, that in no way means fight for.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Hector, this video was made way before the $15 minimum wage fell through earlier this year. This video was made several months before that. So, which is weird that it's still ringing true. But so you saw that video, and then we kind of went back and forth through tweet replies, and you were like, yeah, this is a conversation that needs to be had. So tell me, why did you get that feeling? Why did you think that when you saw this video?
Yeah, and I'll just be straightforward. When I saw this video, I heard the words and I took a lot of it in, but I have shall we say, a very, very different take on the whole situation.
Absolutely.
And, when I want to be clear with our wording as well, because the words we say, I want us to be talking about the same things. And I hear a lot of so-called progressives, right? And I'm not here as a so-called progressive. I'm here as a progressive, as somebody who ran as a Democrat, who is actively employing the inside-outside strategy, and who believes that it's a very important part of leftist organizing, and it's something that's worthwhile. And, unambiguously, I'm here to tell you and your viewers that if you live in a state or if you live in a congressional district where you don't even have a two-party choice, you have a one-party choice, like here in the 8th District of New Jersey, where I ran, where we don't even have Republicans and Democrats. All we have is Democrats.
It's Democrats.
Unambiguously, I hope that you are registering as a Democrat and participating in Democratic primaries if you have close primaries. So let's talk about begging, right? The inside strategy being one of begging. I actually see it as a strategy of active hostility to the Democratic establishment. And in a lot of ways, you can say that the progressives are the ones, progressives like myself and a lot of the candidates that, I also want to take this as a conversation that we were talking about, or you were talking about Marianne Williamson and her candidates and
Absolutely.
those people running as Democrats that Bree and Katie Halper and Crystal Ball are promoting. And I know a lot of those candidates, they're great candidates. If you live in their districts,
as do I. Yes.
I hope you support them. I hope you, if you can, donate to them. But those are the only people, not the only ones. Let me not say that, because that would be an exaggeration. But they are making an actual attempt to take power away from the Democratic power establishments. Those candidates that we're talking about, I don't see them begging anybody. I see them actively opposing corporatists in a way that other people are not on an electoral level. If we're going to have the conversation of the inside-outside strategy, there are 3 things that we kind of have to agree on for you to accept that this is a worthwhile strategy.
Before you get into the strategy, just to address some of the comments.
Sure.
Because a lot of people thought this conversation was going to go a different way. They thought I was bringing on somebody who agreed with me, who agreed with the statement, not with me, because we're going to find out that we're actually in agreement.
Indeed, we are in agreement, and I agree with that too.
But what I wanted to point out before we get into it is, this is what RBN wants to do. We want to have conversations with people we may necessarily not agree with. These are the conversations we want to have. This is what we're not afraid of.
Right.
This is what political discourse must move towards.
Absolutely.
Having conversations, saying your point of view, and moving on. I mean, it's a better of the understanding. So I just wanted to say that, because some people was, are you going to be, promoting Democrats? That's not what this conversation is about.
Not at all.
And the thing is, so I'll just leave it there. So back to what you were saying.
Yeah,
so
go ahead, what I think we all are going to agree with is that what I want and what I think you want is to see leftists in power and move policy in a legitimately leftist direction, right? Is that correct? Is that what, I mean, that would make me happy. Right. So
absolutely.
So talking about the inside-outside strategy, just to get these 3 points across, because there's some things we got to agree on as a base set, right? And and I'll pose them as questions to you, CJ. Does it matter what policies get enacted? Meaning, does it matter whether we have a for-profit healthcare system versus a Medicare for all single-payer system? Does it matter if we have a bloated military budget as opposed to a non-interventionist policy? Does policy ultimately matter? Do you think?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes. And I agree with you. And I'll agree with that. Now, point number 2, do the people that get elected ultimately have an outcome on that policy? Do elected officials determine in a very significant way what sort of policy gets enacted? Yes or no? No, you don't think that politicians, You don't think politicians? You think that it doesn't matter who sits in a seat, no
I
matter
do
who?
not.
Okay,
I do
so
not.
if you
Because
believe
this
that,
is the part
CJ,
where we deserve,
okay,
because where we diverge is because
Uh-huh.
I believe corporations have the power, regardless of who's
Okay,
in there. And let me make this point.
sure.
It's because let's take Pfizer, because that's a known entity. Pfizer donates to both Republicans and Democrats, right?
Indeed.
Corporate, it doesn't matter. So the question becomes, does Pfizer's corporate plan change whether a Democrat is in office or a Republican in office? And I think the answer is no.
It's not,
So
but the
their plan
policy
to
that gets
gain,
enacted
but
might be
hang on,
different.
their plan of corporations or corporatism of making profits is the same whether a Democrat is in office or a Republican. That's the entire reason why they donate to both. And this is the reason my answer to your question is no, is because the politicians aren't the ones who determining what laws are being enacted. They're simply the people whose arms is clicking the lever, but they're connected by a string to a corporation. So you got to look at it as a puppet. You get what I'm saying?
I agree, but it's not a one-to-one in my opinion.
So this is the reason why my answer is no to that question, though.
Okay, but I disagree, and I do disagree. I agree on some parts, and the corporations do want policy to follow their direct wants. But for a corporation's direct wants to become policy, it goes through a middleman, and that middleman is the politician. So in my view, the politicians ultimately do have power to turn around and say, thank you, corporation, for your money, but I'm not going to do that. And then they won't get the money anymore. So that's not what happens, obviously. But the point being, in my opinion, and I think it's legitimate to argue, politicians do have power and they could choose to do something else. They choose not to because they're being given money by the corporations who become their masters. It technically, even following on your, the way you draw it, technically, if a politician wasn't beholden to a corporation, but was beholden to the community that they live in, if the community told them what to do, they would do that instead. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why ultimately I do think it matters who gets elected. For somebody to say it doesn't matter who gets elected because they'll just do what the corporation wants, CJ, that's like somebody telling me, or that's like you telling me that if you were to end up as the president of the United States today, you would do the same shit that Joe Biden is doing.
Most likely, absolutely.
You
because
would?
the force, most likely, absolutely.
Really?
If you have corporate powers.
I disagree, CJ. If you're telling me if you were the president, you would do exactly
what I'm trying to explain to you is that the corporate control power over our system is so powerful that anyone who gets in there will be doing the work of the corporations. Absolutely. Unless that person wants to ends up like JFK. You get what I'm saying? Like,
can we start sharing?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's start sharing.
Hold on, because we should get back to your 3 points that we should agree on. Because you said in order for this conversation to proceed, we have to agree on 3 points. So far, one of them we do not.
Indeed. And so let me get to the third point.
So what's the third one? Yeah.
The third one is that ultimately that if you were to agree that the policies matter and that the person who's elected ultimately matters, the third point is that electoralism, or the practice of trying to organizing to put somebody into elected office, is a worthwhile thing to get into if you care about policy.
That's a no too. So right now there's 2 out of 3 that's a no. So based on what you said, that means this conversation can't even proceed because we're operating with two of your 3 like foundations for conversations. We're not on the same page.
So ultimately, that's the thing, is that if you're a progressive, and that's kind of why I wanted to touch on the definition of what do you take to be a progressive? Because maybe that's a better way to make this conversation proceed, because those are the 3 items that I'm operating under. To me, it matters what policies get enacted. And in my opinion, the person who's you can most directly affect to enact policy are elected officials. Therefore, I organize in my community to get people elected that I believe will enact policies that are better for the people and not for the corporation. And I'm doing that on a local level. And I know we'll get into examples.
Local level, I am not as against Democrats locally, because I got to tell you, in Long Beach, for example,
we might disagree there.
I worked at the. I'm not saying necessarily. I'm not saying this necessarily meaning I don't have that blanket statement for local people, because you are able to affect. You show up at City Hall. I worked for City Hall in Long Beach for a couple of years. Right? Saw politics in real life, where the mayor's coming down, the elevator. There's 100 people outside in his face. You get what I'm saying? How like you never get that with Joe Biden. Like voters are right there in his face, calling them every day. Like, so I get. So there is a possibility. Pardon me. There is a possibility to elect these great people, and I know these same people that you're talking about. I went to the website, and it's a lot of them that I know. So it's not a critique on the individual person or their policy. Sorry, I heard fire engine or something. So it's not a critique on them. It's a critique on the team. And this is the question I wanted to pose to you.
Sure.
Is if I'm an abolitionist to my core, and you've seen this, you already know where I'm going.
Yeah.
What does that matter if I'm joining the slave owners team? Like what does my individual belief, how does that trump my team's belief? So that's what I'm saying about progressive. How does AOC or whoever's going to be elected, how does your individual belief trumps the team? More importantly, trump your leader, the person who's giving you your orders. That's what happens. And this is the reason why I say it doesn't matter if you're non-corporate. If your boss is corporate, AOC doesn't believe in taking money. Pelosi sure as hell does, and she takes it by the millions. So are we executing AOC's ideology, or are we executing Pelosi's ideology as a Democrat? That's really, to me, that's the bottom line. We're executing the Democrats, not AOC, not Jamaal Bowman, not Cori Bush, and I love Cori Bush, not Cori Bush. We're not executing their plan. So it doesn't matter what they do if they take corporate money or not.
So I really would disagree, right? Because you're planting it as a Nancy Pelosi is their boss and they have to do what she says. And you're saying about joining the team when you're against it. Most of us, we're living in a place, especially you're talking about a place like New Jersey, where you literally do not have any choice if you're going to participate in electoral politics, but to run as a Democrat, because logistically, and you look at a district like mine, D plus 50 plus 50.
Back to that word logistically, because that's
and we're talking about realistically. When you're talking about electing people, there's organization and talking about meeting people where they're at, people who are living real lives, and you got to touch base with reality to these people. You got to speak to their lived experience. And if you come to a place like this, a place like a lot of places in New York City, and you tell them, I'm participating in politics, but you can't do it as a Democrat, that's not reality to them, because every single person that they exist around that's elected is either they're experiencing politics through the duopoly. Most people in this country are. They're enslaved mentally by the.
That's our job,
and that's what I'm trying to do, though. And that's what I'm trying to.
In the meanwhile, let's go ahead and participate in it. In the meanwhile, let's participate in it in slavery as an abolitionist. In the meanwhile, until we get it, you see how ridiculous that sounds? Like,
no, it's not, because we're not joining.
Terms, that is ridiculous to say. Let's join the people who are enslaving us in order to gain freedom.
It's not, because what you're saying is let's overthrow the people in charge and take power for ourselves. And that's kind of where I want to get it to.
Anyone.
But I don't want to, and I'm not going to be here to defend elected. I'm not here to defend people who are elected already. I'm here to get people in office who will do a better job, because, think about AOC, whatever you think today, When AOC was elected in 2018, that was unambiguously a good thing for the left. What that did for America is that it shifted the tone of the conversation significantly to the left for the first time in my lifetime. Bernie being the first one who did it in 2016. Bernie's election as his campaign, not his election, his campaign as a Democrat did more to wake more people up to the fact of the duopoly than anything that has been done in my lifetime to shift the conversation significantly to the left. So yeah, I want to talk about what we're getting out of it, because at the end of the day, the right doesn't do this. The right doesn't say, well, we either get everything or nothing. The right has been very successful over the course of 40, 50 years of accepting slight changes to the tone of the conversation to the right. Ever so slightly, you move the conversation to the right. 50 years later, you elect a neo-fascist like Trump, who was given to us through the system of neoliberalism, which is a moving of the conversation in America to the right. For Bernie and AOC, forget what they are today, and forget, you're going to have a concept of the progressives today. The day that Bernie launched his campaign in 2015, that was a good thing for the left. When AOC was elected in 2018 and the tone of the conversation in America starts moving to the left, that is unambiguously a good thing for the left.
I don't agree with that comment. I agree with the first part about Bernie, but I don't agree that that's anywhere near unambiguous.
It's unambiguous, and it's unambiguously a bad thing for someone like Nina to lose.
That don't even believe that AOC is a CIA plant.
And I want to talk about that too, because there's so much political fan fiction that goes on today, and so much Twitter discourse. Like talk about if AOC is a CIA,
is to call,
but that shit is ridiculous. That's ridiculous to me.
Absolute, to call
that's ridiculous. To call somebody a CIA plant.
It may have like evidence for, that's a crazy. That's the purpose of that. So I get that. But the point is, but hang on. But the point is, let's call it fanfare. Let's go with your argument. You get what I'm saying? Let's go with your argument. I don't agree with it, but let's go with it. So let's say that that's a crazy conspiracy. There's people who believe in the same policies that you espouse, who believe that whether you think it's real or not, it's real to them. Hold on, because you just said people experience the duopoly through their eyes, through their experience, right? Isn't that what you said? So
absolutely.
The same thing applies to this. The person's experience who is saying AOC is CIA, that's through their own experience. And we can't devalue that. You did that. You tried to do that, and we cannot devalue those people.
And I understand that, and I'll give that to you. But what I'll say is that, sitting around and asking us whether or not AOC is a CIA plant, that's not going to move the conversation, and that doesn't get leftist policies enacted at all.
I'm simply retorting what you're saying, that is unambiguous. It's not if people think that, whether it's real or not. And it is ambiguous. Unambiguously, it would be a good thing for Imani Oakley in New Jersey to get elected, David Kim in California to get elected, Melanie DeRigo, these people who are running as legitimate. And I know all of them. And they're all great. They're all great. They're all great people. I've looked them up, just as I looked up you when you were running. I looked everybody up, and all, like, what's on your website, everything I agree with. The problem is you're joining a terrible team. That is the problem. It's not the person. It is not the person. Whether you have a choice or not.
Let me ask you something.
Like having a choice or not doesn't make it. It's not going to make me like vote or promote to vote for Democrats. So let me break that down even more. So if in your area you're saying you can only run as a Democrat and you can only run as a Republican, that's the issue.
That is the issue. That is the issue.
So not to say if we can't beat them, let's join them.
It's not. We're not saying let's beat them, join them, and that's what I think.
Old left. And we're no longer the new left is no longer. This is the separation of the new left and the old left. The new left is saying no more partnerships.
It's not a partnership. No, it's a hostile takeover.
We're done. It's not. It doesn't look pretty hostile when you're calling her mama bear.
You see,
it doesn't look pretty hostile when you call. But hold on, you're basically trying to tell me. You're basically trying to tell me that let's forget about history, what we see, what we've experienced, what the very progressive you're saying we should elect. Forget that shit. Like, don't even think of that. Just forget it. These new people aren't gonna do that. What I'm saying to you, Hector, the very same argument people had about the same people you now don't want to talk about or defend. The very same thing that you're saying, that were great people, and people were saying that. AOC, all these people, Cori Bush, even I was saying all of these things, but then they get inside and do this. So you have to understand that there is a hesitation, more than a hesitation, there is a complete wall that you're going to hit with a lot of leftists, because we've tested this out so many times. And it doesn't work. But go ahead. I spoke a lot. I'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
No, but I think that's wrong that it doesn't work, right? It actually has worked. And it absolutely does work, because check this out. Be as upset as you want at AOC and Jamaal Bowman, whoever it is, for disappointment. And that's what I think a lot of this comes out to, is that people believed in them, and now that they're disappointed because they didn't get what they were expecting. But again, unambiguously, AOC is better as a representative than the dude she replaced, Crowley. The same thing for Elliot Engel with Jamaal Bowman. Unambiguously, it is better to have Jamaal Bowman than Elliot Engel. I think you're muted, my brother. You're muted. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you.
I was on mute, and good thing I was on mute. So, but listen, question I have is: did anybody reach out to you, Hector, to come on this show to talk to me about this? Because it's a little bit coincidental that I just made a video about Marianne Williamson thing, and this came, and now I'm speaking to you a week later. So did anybody participating on that reach out to you to reach out to me?
Absolutely not, and we can prove that because the DM that I sent to you was after the. No, but just so your audience knows, I sent you the first DM. I sent you the first DM a week before the Marianne Williamson thing came out. So I did this because I do believe the inside strategy is worth engaging in. It's something I'm personally engaged in on an ongoing basis locally in Jersey. I know a lot of the candidates who are running now because we've maintained relationships from the time that I ran. And I personally don't like what I see as a lot of punching left from other leftists to say, let me tell you something, CJ. If I was to come here and I was to tell you direct action, mutual aid, that's not going to bring about socialism. That's not bring about communism. That shit's a waste of time. I will be wrong, and I will be an asshole for that. But there's so much discourse.
You're an asshole for saying your
but I would be wrong. I would be wrong for that. And I think that there's so much discourse that goes on the left of attacking other leftist candidates just because they live in a part of the country where political reality is that if they want to win an election, they're going to have to run as a Democrat. And I don't like.
I'm against anybody attacking anybody. Nobody should be attacking any individual candidate.
You're right. But let's talk about.
No one should be doing that because they're great people. I like I said, I know a bunch of them. They're great people.
Let's talk about vote harder because a lot of people are very dismissive.
We should absolutely be attacking the concept as the new left. That's who I'm speaking to, and the new left is completely on that. This is the separation. There's one separation.
I don't believe that's true.
And that is, we're forging it, Hector. RBN is the one who's forging this new left along with our comrades who are already a part of it. We've already had this discussion. Like, this is the separation. We've decided that this strategy is allowing too many people to die and suffer. This strategy here. It would be another thing if these people were not, I don't mean the people who are running. It would be another thing if the progressives were doing both, like doing activism. Like,
can
AOC,
I just share something with you?
Hold on. Because let me say what I mean by that.
I'm sorry.
Before you tell me. So what I mean by that is AOC, Bernie Sanders, Cori Bush combined have several dozen million people. Bring union members together. Let's have a general strike summit. They could do that, but they're not, because corporations don't want them to do that, because they don't want to rock the boat. They could absolutely get the ball rolling on a general strike summit. How about this? The Poor People's Campaign. They're starting a direct action thing. Reached out to them. They're not a part of it because they can't do it. So to talk about a couple of points here, when you talk about that Pelosi is not their boss, that's absolutely correct. That is absolutely, they don't fall out of line whatsoever. It's almost like they're in fear of her almost. So not sure what's going on behind the scenes, but even Cori Bush, who I love, has flipped the script, has gotten silent. Stories about her being at the Medicare for All march, not wanting to be on camera, not wanting to say anything. So there's a losing of the spine once they raise their hand and say that oath. And we cannot or do not have the time to put in another crop of progressives for this to happen again. Now, so let me tell you what I thought we were going to agree on. I thought you were going to tell me, or one of the points I thought we could agree on is that I don't believe any inside strategy can't work. I just believe this inside strategy can't work.
Which is
the inside strategy of the Tea Party can work, where you're running against your own party. You're saying these people here are terrible. Bring me into office and I'm wrecking shit. That if you're doing
that's
that,
exactly what that. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Listen, sir, you can act like any of these candidates are talking like that, and they are not. I've watched all of their material. I've been on all of their websites. No one is speaking in that terms. Zero. They're all speaking in the terms that AOC spoke. No one is saying we're going in here wrecking shit. No one, sir. No one. Even you weren't saying that.
That's not true. That's the thing. That's not true. You're absolutely incorrect about that. And I'm going to tell you
explicitly saying the words.
Explicitly
not
saying
around
the words
about, oh, this means this, or I call them like exactly? I'm saying we're going to Washington to disrupt what the Democrats are doing because they're terrible, like that. The Democrats
said that,
are terrible, and we're coming here to disrupt that.
I think I ran exactly on those words. Okay. Well, I mean, I absolutely could show you that. And anybody who's interested here, go to it's my pinned tweet, is my campaign video. In those exact terms, I'm talking about the Democratic establishment. We are running against the Democratic establishment. If I could share my screen for a second, because there was a couple things that I wanted to bring to this conversation. The first thing you was talking about activism, correct? You want people who are going to be there and be activists. I don't know if you could see my screen right now.
Sorry. I forgot. I'm supposed to approve it. Sorry, my bad. There we go. Now it's there.
What does that say?
Discusses being arrested for protesting Hudson. But what does that mean?
That means that I am of the crop of leftists that is actively engaged in hostility to the Democratic establishment. The Hudson County Executive is is the second or third most powerful Democrat in where I live in Hudson County. If it's on the same time, this is what happens. You mentioned JFK. This is what happens to people who try to organize in Hudson County. This is what happens to people who organize in Hudson County. 5 years ago, a consultant sent 2 dudes to stab up a cat in Jersey City where I'm organizing. If I scroll down, you see those firefighters that are in Jersey City and then burned his body alive. This is not games out here. We are running against a mafioso democratic establishment, and we've gotten results. We've elected progressives at the local level, in city council, in Jersey City races. Like this one right here, our two progressive champions in Jersey City, a black man by the name of Frank Gilmore, a reformed gang member who came into the political game to get dudes off the streets and give them a more positive life, and another cat, James Solomon. These are two progressives who beat the crap out of the democratic establishment in Jersey City. And so that's why when we have these conversations and people talking about being a CIA spy and all this stuff, like, bro, this is what I'm looking at.
And all
this is what I'm organizing against.
I'm not sure why you would bring that back up, but all what stuff? What do you mean by that?
Well,
because there are people who absolutely believe that, and they're part of my audience, and I mean it's offensive.
Well, I'm talking about being.
I'm just saying it's pretty offensive that you're being. I don't understand why you would come back to that after we already
come back to what do you mean?
I'm saying there's people who believe that. So for you to go back to say,
but I'm not saying that's not what I'm talking.
People who believe in this and that. Like you're being very like whatever's
dismissive
about it.
You think I'm being dismissive?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm just saying, dude, come on.
I'm not trying to be dismissive. What I'm trying to say is that I'm living in a world where this is the reality that we're facing. And if I want to get change for the people in my community,
reality is different than yours.
Then
could that be possible?
100%. And I'm sure it is. And I'm sure there's many people like that.
And they're living their reality. I'm living my reality. And my reality is the police is funded. Their funds are going up under the Democratic Party, who are killing us.
If that means get to the point
I can't team up with them. They're literally murdering our people. Literally. Any person who decides to join that team, I cannot support, and I'm going to vigorously campaign against. Doesn't matter how much I like you. You can't keep joining a team that's killing us. They're killing us.
I agree with you.
When are privileged people, not you, not saying you're privileged because you're not, when are privileged people going to get that? This electoralism is too slow. In 4 years, in 8 years, how many more people are going to die? So it would be one thing. It would be one thing if, for example, I went on the Jen Perlman show.
Indeed, and I want to talk about that.
Hold on. I'm using this as an example. We're about both. And I'm using it as an example to say, you can't say you're about both direct action and electoralism, but then 75% of your conversation is about electoralism. You get what I'm saying? It's like you're putting full effort into electoralism and half effort into direct action because you're only doing that direct action to say I'm doing it. It's not full-throated. So if you're able to divide, your time to do both, I guess that will be a plus. Now,
thank you. I appreciate. I take that as a compliment.
Could there be a person who's just so great that even leftists who are saying they're not going to support a Democrat, they may support? Maybe. And I'm thinking of the person in Seattle. I always say her name wrong. I don't want to say her name. It starts with
Kashama Sawant.
Yes, I always say her name wrong. And that's why I don't.
Great. And I'm glad. And I'm glad we touched on her.
If it was a person like that who's basically saying, look, like explicitly, because I just don't want to be any confusion. When I'm saying say these words, I'm saying literally those words, not anything like those words. You get what I'm saying? Like literally those words. So if somebody's coming in and saying, hey, I'm a socialist, but there's no socialist party, that's why I'm running to take down the terrible Democrats, maybe we can work. I'm not going to vote for anybody to be speakership who takes corporate money. Maybe we can work. I'm not hearing any of that. Maybe we can work. But then again, on the flip side, AOC said all of that. There's video of her saying she's not going to support Nancy Pelosi. So then we get back to, how do we believe what people are saying now Like you show me the article with you being arrested. That's before you got elected. There's plenty of things we can point out from Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, AOC before they were elected is great. Like I will do the same thing with them side by side.
Can I just correct
That's
one thing?
That's not the issue. The issue is not pre-election who the person is. The issue is post-election, and we simply, Hector, don't have any history of a Democrat being elected and them not shifting to the middle or to the right. We simply don't have that. But this is why it's such a hard case for this to be pulled off, for you to pull this off, or for anybody to pull this off. There is no example of this working.
Well, let me correct one thing.
Of a progressive being progressive and staying progressive. You get what I'm saying? Go ahead.
If I could just correct one thing, that article of me being arrested, that's post-election. That's post my election, which I did not win. I'm not an elected official, but that makes
a difference. Wouldn't you say that makes a difference?
No, because I would have been there regardless.
The point that I'm making?
Not really, because if I would have been elected, I would have been there regardless. That's me. And the reason I'm telling you, I can't stick up for people who are elected is because I've never spoken to AOC. I've never spoken to Jamaal Bowman. Even Cori Bush, whoever it is, I've never had a conversation with this person for me to tell you I'm going to come here and defend that person. There's two things I think you said that I kind of want to touch on, and it was the Jen Perlman episode where you said something that I think was very enlightening. And it's that as leftists, what we're asking for is solidarity. That's what we really need, is solidarity. And as a progressive, I think a lot of us are asking the same thing. It's like, why are leftists who agree with us ideologically not showing the solidarity? If, again, imagine
because you're joining the slave owners. Because you're joining the slave owners.
But okay, the reason we're joining is not because we like it. It's because we don't like it and want it to change. So the reason we're going in through the Democratic Party, number one, is many people don't have a choice. They live in a very blue place where the only person who's going to get elected is a Democrat, and you don't like what the Democrats stand for. So you're running to change what it is. By getting in.
Going to the police department say, what you're saying sounds eerily like what they say.
What do you mean?
When they want to go into the police department to change it and they're good, and it's like, that's not
I don't think that's different. It's a very different situation, because how do you hold those
comparison?
Not really, because you could hold a person elected accountable in ways you cannot hold a police accountable. You could take power away from them by getting them out of office. Very simply, just and that's where I think we diverge, because if it didn't matter, right? Why do these people want to be reelected? If they're just on a string and they don't make any decisions.
And money.
Exactly.
Power and money. That's why they want to get reelected.
Power means something, doesn't it? Power means something, and they want to keep
power and money.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And so pretending that these people don't have a degree of power or that they're just interchangeable, I think is a significant mistake.
Hold on, let's discuss that, because you took power to mean something different. I mean power over lay people. Power over lay people. I'm AOC. I'm a congressperson. I'm a celebrity. Power. They don't have any legislative power. So I
disagree.
Make sure we understand that's absolutely not what I'm saying when I say power. It's power as in the sense of ego power. Well, that's why you get that's why people make this a career.
Again, I significantly disagree. I significantly disagree because people are not going to sit in careers if there's nothing to it. They would be somewhere else.
Money. I just explained that to you. I explained it's power and money. It's instantly becoming a celebrity. On top of that, making money and getting great health care.
Most congressmen are not celebrities.
Why?
Most congressional people are not celebrities.
They're celebrities in their local area. They are a local celebrity. How else would they get elected unless people know their name and know who they are?
Okay, let's talk about realities, right? In New Jersey, there's a political machine that drags people out to vote all the time. These people don't know a name from anything at all. Mm-hmm. Again, if let me show you what a ballot looks like in New Jersey. If you let me show that, these people don't know who they're voting for. This is the ballot I ran under.
Let me take this off so you can see the full thing. Hold on, take that off.
And if you can make it full screen, what do you see there? What do you see there when you look at that?
Like this?
Yeah, just look at that.
Go
What do you
ahead.
see? Just tell me what you see.
Shit, my eyes are bad. I see Democrat, and then it looks like these are letter grades. I can't see the small writing, but I can see the letter grade.
So these are
I think
columns.
I see Booker under B. I think I see Booker.
And who's above him? Who's above Cory Booker?
Biden.
And who's under?
He's a B.
Exactly. And who's under?
Under him. I can't. I think it says Spires.
Yeah, some weirdo that I ran against. But the point is, this is a ballot in New Jersey. This is what 90% of voters see when they walk in. They go to that B column and they just vote down that B column. You could put any name, any person in that B column, and they would get elected. This is the part.
What does the B stand for in your state? Is it incumbents or under B? Is that what that is?
Well,
or what is that?
Again, if I can tell you, this is actually an example of people running as Democrats and it making a difference. Because in normal years, the establishment has a complete column. You could see a complete column under B, correct? There's a candidate in every single slot. Other columns are not the same. You can see that. Look to the right of Joe Biden. You see how there's empty boxes all over the place. There's a dude in D. His name is Will Sheehan. All the way in the corner on the right. You see that name? All separated from everybody else. That dude is not going to get anybody, and he didn't get anybody to vote for him. What we did, me and an organizer from the civil rights era named Larry Ham in Newark, organized together. We got another person to run with us at a local level as a Democrat. And we were able to make a complete column, which let us compete for the columns. The columns are basically determine who gets elected. This is called the county line in New Jersey. And this is how the Democratic establishment holds over people's minds. Literally mind controls people with a ballot that gives you predetermined outcomes. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm up against.
No,
and that's what I'm organizing against.
I'm not following, but what does that have to do with? What does that have to do with running with leftist supporting Democrats?
Well, without other leftists supporting us, without our ability to recruit a candidate for the Senate to run against Cory Booker, we were the only ones in a congressional district with a legitimate shot to kick establishment corporate Democrats out of office. And so to me, our entire campaign was a testament to how this strategy has merit and can result in actual things for people and communities. Even if we live in a place where we have to run as Democrats because there are no other legitimate choices in my community.
What do you mean by legitimate choices?
Well, again, let's go to my district, the 8th Congressional District of New Jersey. That is a district that is D plus 51. That means just running as a Democrat in a general election means you will win the election. That's what that means. What that means is that the only place for competition is in a Democratic primary. Only one. You talk about...
You're not answering my question. I'm asking you, how does this legitimately... Like I'm asking
because, well, I'll tell you this. When candidates run for office, I hear a lot of discourse about, well, they're taking poor people's money and wasting it, right? We've heard about talk like that, right? If you're running as a third party candidate in my district, you are against not only the institutional barriers of the duopoly. On top of that, you have this machine on top of that, which is the Democratic establishment that will make sure essentially nobody gets elected here but Democrats. And that's what I want you to understand. There are many places like this.
I'm still not following. If a person is what I'm getting to is I thought you were saying there's no other option.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So let me say this. When I speak, I'm speaking literal with the words of how I speak. So
beautiful.
So, but that's not what you're explaining now.
That is what I'm explaining.
There's other parties. You're just saying the game is tilted. That's a different thing than saying there's no other. That is a different thing because factually, when you go on the ballot, there's other parties.
Yeah, indeed.
Again,
but that doesn't mean you have a legitimate choice. It doesn't mean you have a legitimate choice. It does not.
The premise of your argument is that there is no other options, and there is.
There's not.
You throw in the word legitimate to change the meaning.
No.
Just the meaning of it is there other parties in the district? You get what I'm saying? Like, that's a simple yes or no. If it is, then run as another party.
Absolutely not, because that would be a waste of time. That would be a waste of people's money.
Why would that be a waste of time? Why would campaigning, what would you call Bernie Sanders' campaign a waste of time? Because he didn't win. You just said yourself that the campaign did what? But now you're saying this campaign, when you know you're not going to win, but you're spreading your message, is pointless. How is that both of those true?
No, because Bernie Sanders had a chance to win. He had a chance to win.
Bernie Sanders absolutely did not have a chance to win.
He absolutely
did not.
He absolutely did. He absolutely did. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't have organized for him. I wouldn't have donated to it. I do believe he had a chance to win.
I get that's why you did it. I get that's why you did it. And I get that's why you believe he was going to win. What I'm saying, me looking at it, he was absolutely not going to win. He got as far with it. But the question I asked was, you said earlier, his campaign did great things.
Good things.
This was when you were trying to establish. We're good things, great things, whichever. You said that it pushed the political conversation. To me, I would call that
to the left.
Great, like a culture shift. So if a campaign can do that, how is a campaign worthless running as a Green Party, running as a socialist, running as a communist if you're not going to win? How is that if you're spreading the message in the way that you spread that Bernie Sanders did?
Okay, and that is, again, the point of the inside strategy is ultimately to get somebody elected. And so me as an organizer, I would not feel comfortable asking for people's money when they're poor, asking for their time when they don't have a lot of leisure time, when in my heart, I'm not going to get elected at the end of this journey. To me, that's not. And if you live in a place where that is possible, if you live in Seattle where Kshama Sawant got elected, if you live in Burlington, Vermont, where Bernie Sanders got elected, and you could run as a communist, as a socialist, and get elected and make a change, that's worth it to me. That's not where I live. And I wish that my communities wouldn't be written off this conversation of we're not worth organizing in, or it's not worth engaging in political activity in places like this, just because on top of the duopoly, we have another stranglehold upon us, which is a monopoly, a political machine, which essentially works as a mafia, which we're trying to go against and abolish.
If we keep, tell me how this strategy ends the duopoly. This is the hard part. This is the hard part, because how is that? How was another party created out of joining the same party?
That's a great question. You mentioned the Tea Party earlier, right?
Right.
How many members did the Tea Party have when they ousted Boehner? Do you know?
Hold on. They're not a party. They're Republicans within the party.
Okay, but
right. So the question I'm asking is how the duopoly are two parties, Republican and Democrat. How does running as a Democrat create another party? Not a party within the same two parties. How does running as a Democrat do that?
That's a great question.
That's leftist goal.
The leftist goal is to institute democracy and to have a real democracy. And what I'm telling you is you can elect people who will choose to pursue electoral reforms like open primaries, like jungle primary. Okay, but let me ask you: if you say
12 years, people can go 12 years. So are you going to go 12 years without health care? Can you do that?
No, but what do you want? What's the alternative?
We're asking people to do that. The alternative is to get into the streets and organize. The same organizer you're talking about for organizing a campaign, change it from a campaign to a general strike. There you go.
The problem is that just because other people are not doing it the way that is being recommended doesn't mean that they're not serious about it. It's like either we do it the way we're being told, either I organize a general strike or I'm not a real leftist. Is basically, and I hear a lot of that. Either AOC and Jamaal Bowman do what I want them to do, or they're not real leftists. There's a lot of that going on.
Well, I hear more than that. I hear that,
There's a lot of that.
and they're not doing the things they said they were going to do. You tell
And I
me
agree
this,
with
voting
that.
for the Iron Dome, would you call that doing what they said?
No.
Voting for Nancy? So that's
Absolutely
the
not.
critique, is that they're not doing what they said they were going to do. So we're saying, in response to that, if you're not going to do what you said we're going to do, at least do this direct action.
But
So
why should they do that?
I'm sorry?
Why should they do that? Why should they follow the strategy other people want them to?
I'm saying in place. I'm saying do yours. You got it? Do yours then. If you're not, then do my idea. That's what people do that are in community. It's do yours. If you don't have an idea, or usually the critique is, if you have a critique, what's your idea? I have a critique and this is my idea. You get what I'm saying? To replace it.
Absolutely. And that's what I think I'm coming to with it, that this is my critique. But my critique is that, unfortunately, you're going to have to run people for office and they're going to be registered as Democrats. And that's a very unfortunate thing. And I'm not saying that because
there's other parties. You just told me. So they're not forced to run as anything. This is what you're telling me.
But they won't win.
This is the argument.
In my district.
You're saying that voters are supposed to go off of your personal belief that you can't win under any other, that's what you're saying. You're saying that hold on. You're saying that because there's other parties you can run. You're saying that we're supposed to throw our support behind these candidates, right? Off of their personal decision, their personal belief that they can't win. That is absolutely it. Because all you're telling me about the 15 plus is a poll. That's all you're telling me.
Absolutely not.
That is not a science. That is a poll. That is not a science. It is not.
Honestly,
otherwise, we would have had Hillary Clinton as president.
I'm not.
If it was a science, we would have Hillary Clinton as president. It is not a science. So you telling me D+5 can be overcome with the right candidate?
No,
that's what I'm saying.
And I disagree, and I think that's wrong, because I'm not referring to polls. The demographics of my district, you're just not. There's no arguing against that. Nobody but a Democrat.
D+15 unless you took a poll.
It's not a D+15. It's a D+51.
51. I'm sorry, 51. But that's not the point. The number. But how do you know that unless you took a poll?
It's not about poll. It's about numbers of. It's about numbers of registered people versus unregistered versus registered as any other party. Democrat blows any other party away just in registration, not even in votes.
But that's not in votes. And so can a registered
and in
Democrat,
votes, it's even worse.
Can a registered Democrat vote for a Green Party there in the general election? Not
in the general, primary. Yes. In the general.
Okay, so what's the problem?
That they don't do it.
What's the problem? Get elected. If you're that good, you're saying the same stuff you would say as a Democrat. You're telling me the Democrats are not going to vote for you?
Yes, they won't.
You're telling me that. So
they won't.
I have a blue hat on instead of a green hat, and I'm saying the same exact words. I have the same exact campaign. Everything is the same.
And they won't vote for you. And that's exactly what I'm telling you. And that's because of the ballot I tried to show you earlier.
That person is saying all the things that I want. These Democrats aren't. So I'm going to go ahead with the Democrats. It sounds like what you're saying is, if you run as a Democrat, you kind of already have a bump regardless of who it is.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you.
That's what you're saying, and we're saying we're not down with that. We're saying we're not down with that. Make a better decision. We're saying make a different decision. So if that's what you're saying, we're saying we're not down with that. I'm
not saying I'm down with it, but I'm saying that that's the reality of where I live. It's an unfortunate reality. It absolutely is.
How are you saying it's a reality when you have other parties? You're excluding reality. I'm not excluding the reality, other parties and creating a reality that's not there.
Look at
the
numbers they
run
get
under them.
Why?
So if you were in a place
to lose and to not have an effect on the electoral decisions that get made.
Right. Yeah, Bernie lost. Did he have any effect? Again, you keep having these two different critiques about the same concept, where you're criticizing your campaign or some person's campaign to run knowing you're going to lose, or to run and lose the result. Forget whether you thought it was. You run and you lose. You're saying that is not worthy. But you said in the beginning that Bernie Sanders doing the same exact thing where he ran and didn't win. Those are the two dynamics I'm speaking. Ran, didn't win. Feelings, I don't care. Ran, didn't win. That's the same dynamic. You said
It's not the same dynamic. And that's what I'm saying. If you run and you are trying to win and ultimately do not succeed, that means a lot more than going into it knowing you will not win. Those are not the same. Those are not the same dynamic. Those are not the same dynamics.
Self-defeating. This is what maybe I'll put that clip up where of Afeni. She said, "How are we going to win a revolution if we keep saying we can't win a revolution? How are we ever going to create a third party if we keep saying we're never going to win as a third party?" You understand how it
somewhere where a third party works, do it. If you live somewhere where that
it works wherever it's on the ballot.
Absolutely,
it works wherever it's on the ballot.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because if it did, they would get more. Then how many Green members are there in Congress? If it works everywhere,
I don't know. How many progressives there are in Congress? How many progressives are in Congress? You shouldn't have said that. How many progressives are in Congress?
Maybe two.
Maybe two. And what are those two people doing? Jack shit.
I don't agree with that either. So
you're saying we should elect more people like those two who aren't going to do anything, who quite frankly don't even have the power to do anything.
I disagree with both of those things. I think that they would. We're trying to elect people who will pursue the policies that I've found important: abolishing ICE, canceling student loan debt. The whole list you sent me, Medicare for all. Money in politics was one of the main issues I ran on. I'm an anti-money laundering specialist as a day job, and so my number one issue is corruption in politics, and getting money out of politics, I do believe, is the main problem. And I'll disagree that nothing can improve until you fix that, because I don't like that framing. If you say blank, nothing will improve until you do blank, that basically means you're basically saying nothing will improve. I think you can get improvements on money in politics. If you go to my website to this day, I still have my anti-corruption platform out where I limited donations to $250 maximum. I do believe money in politics is a major issue, but that doesn't negate the fact that there are places in this country where if you're going to run at a federal level, and I think that that's another disconnect that we are having, because a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is on the local level. Another thing that was said in the conversation about Marianne Williamson with you, Jay, and Rome, is that you can't build a house from the ceiling down, right? You put a foundation down and you build it up from the foundation. Mm-hmm. I'm building a progressive foundation in my community, and it's not going to be a third party. And I'm sorry to tell you that it's not. In Hudson County, New Jersey, that's not a third party. Sorry to tell you.
Some of the same things you say to yourself, like you're not applying it. Some of the same things, like it's self-defeating.
It's not self-defeating. I'm meeting people in my community where they're at. And I know that doesn't make people happy. I know some people want to say, oh, well, fuck the Democratic Party. We'll never join them again.
Meeting them where they're at, because
that means accepting people for who they are and the experiences that they've had, and not talking down to them. Not talking down to the people you organize. That means when I go out into my community and I talk to somebody and I'm talking to them about their lives and the problems that they face and the solutions that they want, they're going to experience that in a reality where the elected officials are Democrats. When you talk about running an election, they're going to say, are you running Democrat or Republican? I'm talking about when I do municipal races and I'm text banking and call banking for a local municipal race, people are talking about Biden and Trump. Our population is mentally enslaved by the duopoly, and talking to people.
So what are you doing about that? What are you doing about that?
I'm running progressives in the Democratic Party that show them that this is not the way it has to be.
Explain that. Yes. You're not doing anything to explain that.
I'm running people for office. I'm running people for office who are progressives, and they're winning. And they're winning.
Okay, so let me share you this video here. This is a snippet from that video I did. What is it? The Marianne Williamson event. And I guess I'll clip out some more and put these up later. People have been asking about this episode. So let's listen to my critique on it, and we can discuss. Let's go to the squad. Would everybody say those are the most left-leaning people in Congress? So let's talk about them. They're the most left-leaning people in Congress. Let's examine what they have done. What exactly have they done? Voted for the Iron Dome. Let's start before that. Failed to hold their vote for Nancy Pelosi to push for a floor vote for Medicare for all. Let's start there. Let's start with not voting as a block. Let's start with not using their power to determine what type of legislation comes to the floor. The Progressive Caucus can do that. 10 to 15 members can do that. So we're going to talk about, so we need more people in there, more people who are spineless, gutless. That's what we need. We have people in there now who are leftist progressives. What leftist actions are they taking? But buddying up to Mama Bear, but giving Joe Biden an A grade, but believing Joe Manchin was going to give the BBB plan a chance. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm trying to see where should I stop at this list before you get that this is garbage. We need to stop funneling leftists, progressives, or progressive thinking. Let's not call them that, or leftists. Leftist thinking, meaning they have thoughts. They will be with leftist policies, but they're not really in their gut going to fight for it because they're voting for the Democratic Party. To me, I thought this is basic. I thought this was basic. I thought after this pandemic, clearly we're not going back to the Democratic Party. Clearly. And this is the reason why rich, white, leftist, liberal, progressives, whatever word you want to give them, can't be the main voices of our movement because they're willing to compromise with the people oppressing people of color in order or in the name of gaining power. We just want progressives in there to gain power to do absolutely nothing. So I'll first let you, if you had any response to the video, I'll let you go first before I kind of move to the next question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would just say I definitely don't want people getting in who are gutless and spineless and who are going to do nothing. I do want people who are going to fight for progressive policies, canceling student debt, Medicare for all. So I would wholeheartedly disagree that the goal is to send people who are going to be gutless and spineless and cave to the party. In a lot of ways, the project of progressivism is to send leftists who will buck the party, who will do things anti to the party, and who will move policy in a legitimately leftist direction. So that's really my only critique. And I think those candidates running with Marianne Williamson's thing are in that vein.
How many? Do you know how many are running? Do you know?
I really don't. I haven't looked at the entire list, but of the few that
the number 16 is coming to me. The number 16, I think, is 16 on that website.
And I don't know all of them, but I do know a fair number of them, and I have a good relationship, and I think that they're great candidates who should be elected and would unambiguously
I know a couple of
better. Them. They would be better than the person they're running against, right? Would they be better than the person they're running against?
Individually, they're all better.
Great.
Again,
great.
But you're missing the pivotal word. Individually, the problem with politics, you don't go off your individual beliefs. You work as a team. That's the problem.
That's kind of what I'm asking for other leftists, right?
You're not going off. So let me prove that point. So,
sure.
If we say now 30 aren't going to get elected, but let's say 30 are going to get elected.
Sure.
In the House, let's say 30. Right.
And that's not going to happen.
Right. It's not. But I'm putting.
There's not even that many number.
I know. I'm trying to put it up high just to prove the point. So there's 30. So 30 running.
Sure.
Let's say all 30 are elected.
Sure.
30. Right. Now let's say the House, somehow the Democrats are able to keep the House.
Not going to happen either, right?
House. I know this is never going to happen, but let's say they're able to keep the House. They have 219 members, right? Just barely hanging on to the House. If 30 are elected, they can absolutely determine every single piece of legislation that comes to the floor. They absolutely can by simply, not by bringing it to the floor.
By not voting for it, you mean?
Yeah, they can absolutely determine if it's passed. I did say that wrong. Not bringing it to the floor because they're not in the committee to absolutely have it voted out. So you're correct. Not bring it to the floor. And I said that wrong in another video. So for those that watched it, I'm correcting myself here. So these 30 who are elected can determine whether any piece of legislation passes or fails in the House, which means they can extract, we're not voting for a set thing until you bring Medicare for all to the floor for a vote. We're not doing this until you bring that $25 an hour federal minimum wage bill to the floor. That's what could happen. The problem, Hector, what this example is, it can happen now, and it's not. There's enough progressives in Congress now that could do the very same thing that I just described, and they're not doing it because they're part of a team that doesn't want to do it. They individually want to do it. I absolutely believe that AOC wants to do some stuff. I absolutely believe that Cori Bush. That's not how politics works. We're not executing AOC's ideas, or even the squad's idea, or even in this scenario, the 30 progressives idea. We're not executing their ideas. We're executing corporate America's idea by way or through the Speaker of the House, through the leader of the Senate.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Yes. Can I ask you a question? How many members of the Tea Party were there when they ousted John Boehner?
I think they were 40 something, or like something. It was a large number.
Indeed.
It was a very large, it was a huge number.
60. It was 60, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 60.
And so you're halfway there with your example. You're halfway there. Halfway there.
I'm not hold on.
You are, and
I'm not halfway there with my example, because you're just taking the number. My example takes a person with guts, takes a person to stand up to this powerful power. Which
not one person, many people, right? We
have yet to see that. There's 100 and some odd people in the Progressive Caucus. Now we know that that's a fake number.
It is.
We know that that's a fake number. Yes. We know that because it's cool to be progressive, but there's more than two that I would say is progressive.
You think so?
I would say at minimum, AOC I would label as a progressive according to what she says she believes in. I wouldn't put Ayanna Pressley because I don't really hear her talk that progressively about too many things. I would say Pramila Jayapal. I would say Ilhan Omar. I would say absolutely. But as far as like Ro Khanna, no. Ro Khanna's not
at all.
So.
I agree.
The majority of them. But go ahead.
I agree. And look, the thing is that you're acknowledging that it's not a one person individual fight. It's a team fight, and you need a team. And so is a larger team bigger than a smaller team? If it took 60 to take out John Boehner, and John Boehner was a very powerful dude. He was collecting cigarette checks on the floor of Congress. Exact corruption, right? He's so corrupt he doesn't care. It took 60 people to get him out. I don't think sending 18, 30, 60 progressives is the metric by which we judge this. I think we judge this by the metrics of what do they accomplish for the people. I'll admit to you, at this point, it looks very meager. It looks very bleak. Crumbs is a conversation that we have very often, right? All they're giving us is crumbs. But when we have that conversation, you got to think about, to that person on the margin, to that person on their last dollar, crumbs to somebody might be somebody else's material life difference. And so I don't like when we say, they didn't usher in socialism, so it was a complete failure. I know that's not what you're saying.
Material life difference. No, I'm saying the material life difference. I don't agree.
Really?
If you take the material out, but material life difference is moving them out of poverty, not giving them money to stay where they're at and get more food. This is that notion of eliminating child poverty, as if a child can not be poor but live with their poor parents.
I understand
the ridiculousness
that.
of that logic.
But a move in a more positive direction is not
incrementalism, and Black people have been waiting for that shit for 500 years. Is incrementalism.
Incrementalism.
That's a liberal strategy. That's a neoliberal strategy.
Number one, nobody's talking about this is the thing that I said to you about the right. The right doesn't argue with itself about incrementalism. They're happy to take any move in the country towards the right, and they're happy to accept that. Why is there such a huge move on the left?
Because they have a completely different strategy.
Any movement to the left, we can't accept any movement to the left.
They have a completely different strategy. So using them as an example when they have other parts of their strategy that's also different, that works in a different way, I don't see that as the.
I disagree. I think that's why the right has been able to succeed in mentally programming the American people into a rightward shift, is plugging a little bit of right wing.
The problem is the Democrats are also training them in a rightward shift. It's a dance that they're both doing.
And we're the ones opposing them. And the progressives are opposing that.
You're opposing it in your election, but you're joining it.
Not at all.
You're absolutely joining the team that's doing. So you're a Democrat, and we're going to end on here. Give you the last comment because you got to go. No, I'll give you the last comment since you urgently got to go. I was going to go into a whole nother diatribe, but we come to. I know it's kind of abrupt, but he does. He has his child in the background.
I don't know if you can hear her. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I know I could hear. That's why I said that. So. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to me. This amount, we were like, we're going to do an hour. We'll see if we can do 2 hours. And I completely understand because I have a newly 4-year-old myself. So I want to give you the last word. I do want to say before I give you the last word, love conversations like this. I get animated with all my conversations. The way you see me talk here, I talk to my wife. I talk to like, this is how I talk. And people always say, why do you always... I don't know where I got it. This is how I talk. This, like, I'm always like, it seems like I'm always like on edge to do something, but this is just how I talk. So I don't want you to take that to mean anything other than that. This is just how I talk. But love doing debates like this because I felt like, yeah, there was a little bit of yelling here and there, but we kept it respectful. Like, when you felt like I was saying something, hey, don't, and I feel like, yeah, so that's what I like about this. We need to do more stuff like this as a leftist movement. We have to have conversations, even within the left, because I consider Hector to be a leftist also. He's part of the left, but we have a disagreement here. Have those conversations about disagreements so that we all can grow. We can all have a mutually beneficial discussion. So Hector, the floor is yours. Whatever you want to plug or whatever last words you want to have to say about your argument. What's your plea to my audience? And as you do that, I'm just gonna pop comments up. So don't pay attention. I'm not trying to distract you. I'm just popping them up because it's like 500 here.
No doubt. So CJ, thank you so much for the opportunity to come. I think that this is a very important conversation for the left. And I'm glad that we were able to have this on a mutually respectful basis. I do respect you a lot. And I think that, again, this is also the way I talk as a Dominican cat. So I also get very animated. I think the vibe was real. And I think, we had a great conversation. My plea to your audience and to any leftist in the world is the same thing I think you asked for on the Jen Perlman episode, which is solidarity. Don't vote for a party. Fuck the Democratic Party. Vote for a candidate. If you live in a place where you see a legitimate leftist running, you believe in what they're doing, you think that they're fighting for the right policies, you should not be ashamed to support them, even if they are running within the Democratic Party. Vote for policies, form connections at the local level, which is really what I've been doing, is organizing at the local level. And I think that that's where the future is for leftists. And leaving it on this comment, I think we can all just get along. At the end of the day, like
I didn't even realize that.
No, but for real, all we want as progressives, all we really want is solidarity and unity amongst the left to move the policy debates in a leftward direction. And honestly, to get some real legitimate material changes for the poor people of this country. So I'll end it like that, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah. And I want to say thank you to you, Hector. Great conversation. You welcome back on. I'm sure you'll be back on for things that we agree and things we don't agree. And I do want to say this, all the people running, even as Democrats, they're personally great people. I know a few of them that's on that website. And now I know Hector even more. I know you're not running now, but you ran before. Great people. No problems, great policies, a lot of them espouse. So no problem with any individual person. And that's all I have to say. I'll let the audience, you decide. If you feel like Hector has made a case to convince you, that's good. That's good for him. He's trying to build a coalition that he feels is going to work. So I'm not going to tell, I'll never say, oh, don't do that. I'm just going to, say what I think about it. And that's all. I just say what I think and that's it. So thank you, Hector. I know you gotta jet out, so I'm gonna drop you down in the background. We can talk online, a little bit in a couple of hours, just to catch up and reminisce. But I'll pop you out, sir. Thank you. Have a good one. All right. So what I wanted to do still was kind of give, because I was so into that conversation, I didn't have a chance to get to a lot of the comments. So I want to just give the opportunity to do that. So this one here, I feel you, CJ, on that too. He's gonna fit right in. Hector got a future in politics. Yeah, Hector's a cool dude. What is the guest name? Hector. That was his name. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, even if we don't all agree with you. Was a good show. Absolutely. If someone honestly can't see how objectively right-wing the Dems, the Dems, it's because they're a partisan hack. I wouldn't call him a partisan hack, but he believes in the process that he's doing, which is through the Democratic Party, and that maybe how more I would describe it: a 65% mortgage, 35% rent, the rest lend. I think that's another conversation they're having. Incrementalism makes the oligarchy happy. That is true. The government could bring every child out of poverty, free college, free Medicare for all, and housing for all. Learn MMT. Both parties are a joke. His ideas are weak. Not sure which you're referring to. I wish I was able to get to these comments during the conversation. How can he seriously defend his politics? Corrupt corporations are right wing, same as GOP. That is true. I do agree with that. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through a little bit of more because I know there's more conversation. Again, look at how disproportionately overrepresented by Jesuit alumni the Congress is. They are all Roman loyalists. I'm not sure what that means. If anybody can explain that, please do. Class war. I think that's what we're in. The problem is a lot of people in poverty don't know we're in a class war. That's the problem. So, good luck, Hector. What? Didn't know he was going to say that. Hector is going to be a career politician. Here goes Sabby. They don't even talk about Medicare for all anymore. Absolutely, Sabby, Sabrina. And sorry I couldn't get to these comments during the time. Hector's. Oh, I already put that one up. The right establishment is happy with the DNC's incrementalism. Okay. Got a daddy duty. Oh, yeah, he has to go daddy duty. Absolutely. Dems equal Republicans equal duopoly equals nothing would fundamentally change. I do agree with that comment there. No, that's capitalism that is doing that. It's not Dem versus them. We are smarter than that. Class war. Man, I wish I know what comment that was from. What increments have the progressives taken? That is a good question. I don't think they've done anything. But they're always saying they got some kind of secret plan in the background. So, sorry, I got to get close to the camera here. These lights are killing my eyes. So, let's see this one here. Does Hector believe that if we just vote harder in the Democratic primaries, we'll bring socialist change to the U.S.? I don't think he was saying that. So, but that's my opinion. Incrementalism sure does guarantee a long career in the Democratic Party for Hector, doesn't it? Now, isn't that special? Sure, we're getting personal. What are the progressives doing to oppose them? That's essentially the question I was trying to get to, is that I don't see opposition. And unfortunate for the new candidates that are running, there isn't anybody we can point to who said, hey, this person was a strong progressive before the election, got elected, and they're just as a strong progressive while they're elected. We don't have anybody we can point to. So, the left movement, I just don't feel can take another letdown, another campaigning, working for, getting these people elected to have another Jamaal Bowman, to have another AOC. Like the left, like we can't take another that. And so, yeah, the Dem Party is completely corrupt. Absolutely. 19% population are disabled, mostly 65 plus. That is a good stat to have. I'm not sure the conversation in the comments, but that is a good stat to know. Progressive prop them up, not oppose. That's kind of what the argument Jimmy Dore, I forget his analogy, but yeah, it's like you're doing more harm than good because, this is what he said, because it gives the false appearance that we have somebody inside working for us who can really do anything. Like you have somebody inside with the same policy beliefs. That's not the same thing as having somebody inside working for you. It's not the same thing. Why won't socialists fall in line? Oh my God, it's the Republicans and not Dems. Dems are right. This word I was this combination of word, right wing too. Okay. CJ, yes. We can't accept it, Hector, because the people we put in haven't done anything. That's the point. And I know that he was saying he didn't want to defend them. But that's a hard sell to say the people who are in there already, the people who've already accomplished what I'm trying to get more people in, I know they're not doing anything and they're disappointing you, but let's not look at them as an example. That's the problem. We have to look at them as the example of we did that and look what happened. I will incrementally stop breathing, and that will help my asthma. Not pretty funny analogy. Democrats move Republicans to the right too. That's the point I was making when he was saying that Republicans are like Republicans just do. They don't fight. They're people. I should have said this, and I think it's because. Well, let me say what he fully said. He says, "How come on the right, Republican supporters?" They're not questioning all what Republicans are doing. They just kind of do it. How come we can't get that on the left? And what I'm saying to that is the reason. I should have said this. What I'm saying to that is the reason you can't get that on the left is because the Democratic Party is also a Republican Party. I could have said that. And also reason you're not getting that on the left is because maybe this will piss off some right wingers. I think we use our critical thinking skills a lot more. I think leftists use their critical thinking skills a lot more. So to me, that is the answer to that. In other words, it's not a good thing. Saying Republican voters or supporters just fall in line is not a good thing. Regardless of what they put up, it's not a good thing. Or saying any movement to the right, them not critiquing it. How come the right doesn't critique any small incremental movement to the right? Because we've been moving right all along. You get what I'm saying? Like, if this entire time we've been moving right slowly, over 100 years, how much have we moved to the right? There's not much more to move to the right. So the question is flawed because the question would have to be starting in the middle. But if we're already on the right, we're here. We're at the edge. You get what I'm saying? There's a wall here. We're at the edge. We're hitting the wall. So it's not much to move to the right. And we're so far from the left, that's why incrementalism doesn't work. So I guess I'll use this as, I'll write an analogy here. I'll write out a little graph here. Check out my cabinet I left open there. That's what I do. So we're here. I'm gonna show you this, right? This is the right. This is the left. Can you see that? This way. We're here. Oops. Look how close we are to the right. Why complain when you're already that close to the right? That's why they don't complain. But look how far we are from the left. You see, look how far we have to go if we do incrementalism. This is why we're fighting for a bigger jump to close this gap, not slowly close the. I'm sorry, not slowly close this gap. You get it? I know it's a little makeshift example, but hey, it is what it is. I think I proved the point that I was making. So anyway, let's see any other comments, and then we're going to be signing off here. Thank you for staying with me this long. Mental. Okay. The right is already in power, a little more power. Oh, this person, wow, coincidence. Person is saying, puts it in a shorter version of what I'm saying here. We're already there. That's why. Here we go. How can anybody take a progressive seriously when all they do is blah, blah, blah on Twitter, but never actually do anything? That's the problem. What I was saying, that you have progressives on Twitter or elected progressives already that's not doing a good job representing progressives. They're not good examples of what make people want to say, hey, let's go put more progressives in office. You get what I'm saying? Like if they were fighting and they were just this close, like if they held their vote and, Nancy Pelosi was elected by one vote, okay, then you will say, hey, everyone, we were one vote away from keeping Nancy Pelosi out of the speakership. Let's elect more. You have a better argument. But if your argument is, let's not even use the progressives in office as examples, man, you are starting out like pretty far behind. So yeah, authoritarians obey orders. You pick the other side. Authoritarians, absolutely. They have 200-year head start. That was the point I'm making. We're already been shifted to the right. Okay, so the entire point. Oh, I didn't put it on the screen. The entire point of the squad in Justice Dem was to vote as a block. I don't know why I saw block. Or no, my eyes are watery. Block to give you some power. We're not supposed to look at them as examples. In Hector's example, we're not supposed to look at them as examples of what progressives will do once elected in the Democratic Party. What movement? I'm not sure. That person saw. I won't put it up. Don't worry, we cut poverty in half and then switched it back. That's true. Cut poverty for 2 months. It's so absurd. That's such a ruling class, wealthy look at it, as if you can departmentalize your poverty like that. Like, oh, this day I'm not poor. Really? Did you move out of your house? Did you move out of your neighborhood? Did you move out of your school? So how exactly did you cut poverty? You just gave them some food. It's such a joke. Such a joke. Let's see what else we got. The squad votes present on tough bill. That's progressive folks. That's the problem. They have bad examples. People who are the examples of what progressives are doing in Congress are doing a terrible job, and that's the problem. Okay, so I think I'm going to be ending here. Crumbs, not for me, but for thee. That's Tim Black's logic. Wow, Tim Black is still alive? Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, Sabby. Let me see if Sabby has any other comments. $12 is better than 0. Vote blue. I'm not sure what that one meant. No one is now. He is pitching incrementalism. Yeah, that's essentially what you're saying why you're against any small movement to the left is because it's incrementalism. And it's because if you are fine with a small movement, how long before you get the next small movement? Because the people who are compromising with you to give you that small movement, that's a big movement to them. So they're not trying to turn around and give you another small movement. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah. Heck, the Dems can't even count 2,000. That is true. We didn't even get $2,000 from them. That is true. Maybe you don't agree with me this time. I'm not sure why they're saying that. So let's look what this says. The current Communist Party USA is the lapdog of the Democratic Party. They sheep herd communists to vote for anti-democratic. Like, how is that even possible? How are you a communist? Is that true? Is this really happening? What kind of nonsense is going on? Like, they literally have corrupted everything. Man. Okay, I'll end with this comment here, and I'm actually going to also show you one final video here to cap off this live stream. Thank you for joining me here. I'm going to be back later. I believe it's 7:30 Eastern, I believe, for Straight Outta Politics New Time. And I will post that very soon. Oh, I am looking for some media here I want to play. I didn't start out the episode with a video, so I wanted to play that video now. And for those who are watching this episode for the first time, when I first episode, I said I wanted to start out each episode with a very informative or very a good video. I'm not going to describe it because there's several different descriptions. Each video is different. So let me share my screen, and I'm going to play this video as an outro for this stream here. Oops, let me take that comment off the screen, and let's take that off the screen. So for those that follow me, you've seen this about the 13th Amendment, and let's make it bigger, and let's play it.
The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, ratified on December 6, 1865, is the document that set Black people free. It set us on a course of liberation, took the chains off of us, supposedly. Have you ever read the 13th Amendment? No. Have you really read the 13th Amendment? Shall we? Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. The 13th Amendment never made slavery unconstitutional. It merely set conditions on how slavery, coupled with peonage, could remain constitutional. After the Civil War in America, the South was left in shambles. The war strategies of the North did exactly what it was designed to do: destabilize the Southern economic infrastructure and disrupt the normal social structure of whites being in direct control of Black enslaved labor. So enters a system whereby persons under the jurisdiction of a state can be brought to slave status using a loophole in the 13th Amendment via criminalization. Basically, if you are convicted of a crime, your punishment can be slavery. Oh, but not just that good old-fashioned American chattel slavery. Out with the old and with the new. This was slavery with a twist. Slavery rental. Convict leasing.
Mr. President,
And that is where that video cuts off. So I played that video or tweeted that video. If you want to check it out, you can check it out on my page. So I'm going to be signing off here. If you like today's episode, please give it a like or thumbs up. If you like the content and you're new, please follow our network, the Revolutionary Blackout Network. And share this with your friends, share this with a liberal, share this with somebody share this with somebody who says they want to vote for a progressive Democrat. Share this with somebody who wants to talk about this conversation. If you want to tell somebody, hey, stop voting for the Democrat, show them this episode, because they're going to hear a person articulating their side, and then they're going to hear me rebutting it. So share this video with your friends, like it, and thank you for joining me. I'll be back later tonight for Straight Outta Politics, and tomorrow I'll be back here again at 3 p.m. Eastern for You Left Me Out. Thank you for joining me today. Signing off.